The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So quickly on this Friday evening, not going to keep you here very long. Just wanted to come up and continue the momentum of this week. We heard from the coordinators. We heard from Dan Quinn. A lot was shared. A lot of things are going on with this team. We've talked about uniforms and the branding switch and the tip of the spear movement. So a lot going on. Just want to continue that momentum. And during those press conferences that we had or they had on Tuesday, when we heard from head coach Dan Quinn and his two new coordinators, Durante Jones and David Blau, they all talked about the process and what's the next step in the process. And here on the Louie T Network, I am one that likes to follow the order of the process. I know a lot of people like to skip steps, go straight to the draft. That's the exciting thing. I get excited about free agency. I get excited about adding new talent to this team. And so the first order of business, because going straight to free agency would be skipping a step. They were very adamant about what is the next step in the process. And that is assessing the players that are here in Washington that played for this franchise last year that have expiring contracts, and whether or not those players should be brought back to Washington or not. And so that is the next order of business. And so let's go ahead and kind of take a look at those free agents. With that in mind, we've heard from the coordinators. Maybe there's a different light that they can shed on some of these players. Maybe not. And so I want to know from you, who of these guys would you be interested in bringing back? You don't necessarily have to. I guess in the spirit of this conversation, we'll go through this list and we'll talk about whether you want these guys back or you want to let them walk. I think there are a few interesting names on this list. Most of these guys, I think we've already made up our minds on whether or not we want these guys back or not. I must warn you, before I show you this list, it is very gruesome in nature, very graphic, and it's old. Viewer discretion is advised. Boy, we were bad last year. This roster was awful. Let's get to it. So let's talk about this roster and who do you want to see brought back to the Washington Commanders in 2026? So let me see. I'll make this slightly bigger. Let's see. I think 150 is perfect. This is good right here. Let's see what it looks like on the screen for you guys. Perfect. Let's go with that. So for the purposes of showing how nasty this roster was last year, I'm going to sort this by age. Man, when they said we were the oldest team in football last year, they weren't lying. Golly. Let's take a look. So Josh Johnson, we have 32 free agents. And you heard David Blau say so many times, the 23 players on offense, the 23 players on offense, the 23 players on offense that they have under contract. So I would assume defensively there's even less than the 23 on offense, because the Commanders, I think, have the third least amount of players signed on their roster heading into the offseason. So obviously there's a lot of free agents, and rightfully so. This roster was littered with old, washed players. So, and again, injuries definitely played a part in all of this, but still, this is really nasty to look at. And it just reminds you of just how rough last season truly was. So Josh Johnson, I'm good on him. I can't speak for anyone else. I'm good on Josh Johnson. I never wanted him here in the first place, to be honest with you. He actually played well down the stretch, but I'm good on Josh Johnson. We've got our backup quarterback, and I'd like to have a young guy after Marcus Mariota, if at all possible. But he's almost 40. He'll be 40 by the time training camp rolls around. I'm good on Josh Johnson. Von Miller, he's 37, or he'll be 37 years old by the time camp rolls around. I think it's pretty safe to say he's done here in Washington, because he was making that tour, that world tour, that promotional tour around different platforms, trying to promote himself to be back here in Washington. And that quickly shifted from, oh, I'd love to be back in Washington. Oh, I'd love to go back to Denver. And I can tell you what, that bootleg where Drake May came out the other side on third down, I'll tell you what, Von Miller would have stopped that. No, you wouldn't have. Stop lying to these people, Von. Von Miller 6 years ago would have stopped that bootleg. Drake May would have outraced your ass to the corner, just like he did that Bronco defender on that third down to wrap up the AFC Championship game. Stop lying to these good people, these good, wholesome people out there in Denver, Colorado. Von Miller will be 37 years old, and I think they already told him, hey, you can stop promoting yourself coming back here because we're not bringing you back. I think that's why he shifted to, hey, Denver, I'd love to come home. Bobby Wagner, I'm torn on Bobby Wagner. On one hand, I understand why every fan of this team who isn't in favor of bringing Bobby Wagner back wants him gone. And I'd probably side with those fans more so than the other side of it, that's like, you could use a veteran like Bobby on your roster. He's an Iron Man. He's a tackling machine, et cetera, et cetera. But if you bring Bobby Wagner back, I don't think he's of the mindset of, oh, I'll just play first and second down, or, oh, I'll just be a mentor to these young players. If Bobby Wagner's here, he's going to want to play. And we went through this last year. We can't keep the young guys off the field at the expense, or we can't put Bobby Wagner on the field at the expense of the young guys. We just can't do that again. So, unfortunately, Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner, great teammate, great leader. We saw that in 2024 in particular. He probably was even better leader in 2025 with all the injuries and the losing. But I think it's time for us to move on from Bobby Wagner. It was a great 2-year run, but I think it's time for us to move on. He'll be 36 by the time training camp rolls around. Zachary Ertz, 35 years old. I think his time in Washington is done, and we kind of knew that once he got injured. And I think the exclamation point was Cliff moving on. Had Cliff still been here, I think this is a real discussion. But because Cliff has moved on, he's made it very clear that he wanted to finish his career with Cliff. He loves Cliff Kingsbury. And I think that chapter of his career is done, at least the one here in Washington. But again, we'll always have 2024 with Zach Ertz. He was spectacular, really both years. He was really good this past year too, before the injury. But 2024, he was spectacular. George Fant was brought in here as insurance. We don't need to spend time on him. He can go. Preston Smith, a guy that was here because of injuries, he can go. Antonio Hamilton, I know some of you fell in love with him with the Giants game. He's 33 years old, people. Stop it. Antonio Hamilton does not need to be brought back here, okay? But some of you swear up and down he can play here. He's 33, man. Let it go. Like Elsa, let it go. Jeff Driscoll will be 33 years old by the time camp rolls around. I was baffled as to why he wasn't here last year. We don't need to go down that road again. He should have been here from the jump. With that said, I wouldn't mind Jeff Driscoll being here as the third quarterback. If they can't find a young quarterback, like if they don't want to spend a late round draft choice on a developmental quarterback, which I don't blame them if they don't want to do that, because you only have 6 picks. Don't want to waste one. I don't know if I would call it wasting one, but you may be better served spending it on a, corner or an edge rusher, a developmental edge rusher, a developmental corner, or some other position that could use more depth and a guy that you can try to develop more so than a quarterback. if they want to, push that off for another year, I would understand, and I would be more than happy to have Jeff Driscoll round out the quarterback room. Although I would prefer that to be a young guy. With the new rules set up with the emergency third string quarterback being inactive on game day, but actually or not being a part of the actual game day roster, but allowed to dress as an emergency, I think it is imperative that you have a veteran like Jeff Driscoll as that guy, or or that young quarterback. But Sam Hartman is not qualified. We've already discussed that. So I'm open to Jeff Driscoll being brought back here, but with the way that they handled him last year, I doubt that he's back this year. Chris Moore, a discussion is not even necessary here. We're just going to move on. You know how I feel about Chris Moore. I think I know how you feel about Chris Moore. We're just going to move on because I'm going to get pissed off if I keep talking about Chris Moore. Jonathan Jones, he'll be pushing 33 years old as camp approaches. He's an interesting one. I think I saw enough last year. Now, he was also very banged up. Like, it felt like every time he had to play extended snaps, he got injured. That is a concern for me, because there was never a stretch last year where he just remained healthy. He was always dealing with some sort of injury last season. It always felt like he was struggling to stay healthy. And so I'm kind of torn on him. We need depth at the cornerback position, and he is one of those guys that, because he can play inside and outside, offers you real versatility. We heard from our defensive coordinator, Durante Jones, and one of the phrases he used is, versatility. He also talked about adaptability. Jonathan Jones is one of those interchangeable pieces. I wouldn't mind him being back here, but I'd like to. I say that I don't think anybody's circling around. They're not vultures hovering around Jonathan Jones. You can leave him out there on the market and circle back after you've seen what you've been able to do and accomplish at the cornerback position. I think I'd like to do that first. And if the cornerback market doesn't, go the way that you would like it to, maybe you circle back to Jonathan Jones then. That's kind of how I feel about him. I wouldn't do anything prior to the start of free agency with him like I would some of these other guys. Marcus Mariota is the first guy. You know how I feel about Marcus Mariota. He's the first guy that we've gotten to. Look, and all these guys are 30-something. We haven't gotten to a guy with the first number starting with the 2 yet. Okay? We're going to count these 30-somethings up by the time we're done. This is ridiculous. But we finally got to a guy that I feel like is worthy of being back in Marcus Mariota. He's the perfect backup for Jaden Daniels. Last year sucked because Mariota actually played really well. And unfortunately for him, the defense was so bad, he didn't win more games. He played well enough to beat Atlanta, should have won that game. He played well enough to beat Denver, should have won that game. He played well enough to beat Kansas City. The turnovers that really weren't his fault did us in. The defense actually played well enough that night in the first half specifically. He should have won that game. He played really well against Kansas City. He actually played really well against Detroit, and the defense was as bad as it's been all season. Probably should have won the Miami game over in Spain as well. He played really well for us last year. Yeah, every game there was one of those back-breaking turnovers. That's what you get with backup quarterbacks for the most part. But even with that said, we should have won every single one of those games I just mentioned if the defense would have just been average and not the worst in football at the time. So if you have any aspirations of winning a Super Bowl, and I'm not telling you that's where we are in our process, but in my mind, you can't tell me that we don't have a shot because we got Jaden Daniels. So in my mind, I'm saying just get me to the playoffs and anything can happen. And Marcus Mariota and having a big-time NFL backup quarterback is a necessity if you have plans of trying to make it to the postseason and beyond. So for me, Marcus Mariota, perfect backup. He said that he loves it here now. He also loves playing for Cliff Kingsbury. I thought there was a chance he could leave, try to follow Cliff because he loves Cliff's system and it really fits him. But Cliff went to LA and Cliff ain't calling the plays there. They're not going to run Cliff's offense there. Cliff is essentially an offensive associate in LA with Sean McVay. McVay's not changing his offense for Cliff Kingsbury. He may add in some things. Cliff may be able to give some suggestions, but that's still Sean McVay's baby out there. Thus, I think it lessens the likelihood that Marcus leaves, and it strengthens our grip on him potentially coming back here. If I were Marcus Mariota, I wouldn't leave Washington. If you truly love it here the way you say you do, and you love the building, you love the people, at this stage of your career, why go anywhere else? And you know, even though I hate to say this, you know you're playing behind a quarterback that in each of his first 2 seasons has allowed you to see the field in some capacity. Last year, a ton more than his rookie season, but even in his rookie season, he left the Carolina game. And then there were blowouts, and that might restore itself in 2026 where Jaden is back on that shit. He's back on his bullshit. We blowing out teams, and you getting some mop-up run too. So, again, there's a path to you seeing the field here in Washington. It's a great room. You have a great relationship with Jaden Daniels. I would love Marcus Mariota to be back. Eddie Goldman. You already know how I feel about Eddie. He'll be, halfway to 33 years old by the time camp. I don't give a shit. I told you, the beef on the defensive line, I don't mind if it's well done. Eddie Goldman serves a purpose, and that purpose is stopping the run, and boy, does he do that at a high level. I was impressed with Eddie, and if Eddie wants to play football next year, Eddie can play football next year right here in Washington again on another 1-year deal. I'd love to sign Eddie up. I don't know if they feel the same way that I do, but I thought Eddie was outstanding in the role that we asked him to play last year. Don't ask Eddie to rush the quarterback. That ain't what 32-year-old Eddie Goldman is supposed to be doing. But if you ask 32-year-old, pushing 33-year-old Eddie Goldman to stop the run, he showed me last year he has no issues doing that. He was the one guy in these 3rd and 4th down situations that got penetration, that blew up plays. That was Eddie Goldman last year. So sign me up for some more Eddie Goldman. Trent Scott, we had a nice little run here with Trent Scott. That run is over. I'm ready to move on. I would like a new jumbo package tackle / swing tackle / utility guard / tackle. Like, he can play 4 out of the 5 offensive line positions. But yeah, I'm good on Trent Scott. I think it's time to move on. Sheldon Day, same thing. I'm good on Sheldon Day. Now, if they decide they want to bring Sheldon Day back on the practice squad, go ahead, knock yourself out. But I would prefer to get some younger beef, someone, a little bit bigger in terms of their ability to hold up the point of attack. Sheldon Day wasn't the greatest of that. He's more of a one-gap penetrator. And at this juncture of his career, he'll be 32 by the time camp rolls around. He ain't doing that at a high level. He was really, really good in 2024. I thought he was average, maybe even below average in 2025. I'm good on Sheldon Day. Dietrich Wise is interesting, guys. You tell me how you feel, and I want you guys to give me your list in the comment section. And if you're watching this on playback, you tell me the guy. You don't have to tell me who you wouldn't keep. You will do that by keeping them absent off of your list. Just tell me who you would keep. Dietrich Wise is really interesting because with the Durante Jones system and how multiple they are, he fits what they would want to do. We never really got to see Dietrich Wise truly unlocked here. You saw the value in him the first 2 weeks he played. That Giants game was phenomenal. And the start of the Green Bay game, he was really good. And then, boom, he was gone just like that. So I'm interested in Dietrich Wise. He'll be 32, basically, pushing 32 years old, knocking on the door by the time camp rolls around. But again, a guy that we're going to ask basically to stop the run, occasional pressure on the quarterback, but really just stop the run. His age doesn't bother me. The type of injury he sustained doesn't really bother me either. I think he make a full recovery and continue to be the guy that he was prior to the injury. So he's one to keep an interesting eye on. I'm on the fence with him. If they didn't bring him back, I wouldn't bat an eye. If they did bring him back, I wouldn't be upset either. Right? It's one of those ones where I'm like, I'm cool either way. Right? So he's interesting. We need depth on the defensive line anyway. I wouldn't mind bringing back Dietrich Wise. Andrew Wiley, and he seems like a great locker room guy too. I think they really like Dietrich Wise. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought him back. And Andrew Wiley is interesting because he serves so many purposes. He could be the new, he's a better version of Trent Scott. He can play both tackle spots, even though we don't want to see him at left tackle in any capacity. But he definitely could play right tackle, and he can play both guard spots. I don't have a problem. If Andrew Wiley is cool with coming back and being a backup, which he may not. He may think he can go out and start for a team, and that might be the case. There are teams around the league that, could use a starting right tackle, right? Not to shit on Morgan Moses, but Morgan Moses was starting for the New England Patriots this year. Not that Morgan Moses isn't better than Andrew Wiley, but what I'm telling you is there's teams out there that could use depth at the tackle position, and Wiley could have a chance to compete to start. Not here. He won't start, but he'd be the first guy off the bench, and you can rely on him. I wouldn't. What I'm trying to say is he'll be comfortably 31, pushing 32 by the time, which doesn't really matter for an offensive lineman. I wouldn't mind if they brought him back because it's not going to cost you a bunch. Again, I would love to have a younger utility offensive lineman, but that's where development comes in. We just don't have anybody that we've been developing these last 2 years. That's the sad part about, not having more draft picks and, the situation that we've been in. We don't have a young developmental guy. We tried that last year and he got hurt in camp. It's the type of year it was, right? I wouldn't mind Andrew Wiley being back. If they don't bring him back again, similar to Dietrich Wise, I'm not tripping. If they do, cool. Austin Eckler, he can go. I'm ready to flush the running back position and infuse it with young talent. Eck can go. The injuries, he's been fighting concussions and then, tearing his Achilles at this stage of his career. I'm good on a 31-year-old Austin Eckler. He can go. I don't need to talk about Shy Tuttle. Last year, one of the funniest lines, somebody's like, who is Shy Tuttle? Yeah, Shy Tuttle could go. How about Jacob Martin? He'll be comfortably 30 years old. He won't turn 31 until, halfway through the season next year. He's interesting. For the role that he carved out this year, I think most of us are like, Jacob Martin, come back, man. We need depth for this system where you get guys standing up. I think Jacob Martin would be great. Just bring Jacob Martin back. I'm all about running it back with Jacob Martin. I don't know about you. I think he's a guy that I'm comfortable bringing back. And again, the number isn't going to be crazy. He just had a career high in sacks for us last year. I'm not saying he's going to do it again next year, but I'd love to see what he could do in this system with Durante Jones. I'd love to run it back with him. Again, we need depth at edge rusher anyway, right? So he could be a part of that depth. Jeremy McNichols, I know they love J-Mac. He serves a lot of roles and purposes, but like I just said with Eck, the same thing applies minus the injury. But I'm just looking to flush the running back position and start anew, basically with Bill as the anchor and the foundation of the new group coming in. If they brought Chris Rodriguez back, I'd be cool with that. C-Rod, Bill, and then add another back or two. But I know better. McNichols is probably going to be back at least at camp. And if he's here at camp, he's going to weasel his way onto this roster. You can do a hell of a lot worse than Jeremy McNichols being your fourth running back. But I'm just good, to be honest with you. But I think he's going to be back here. He's 30 years old. He won't turn 31 until basically the end of next season. So for all intents and purposes, he's 30. This is his age 30 season. So McNichols is probably going to be back here. That's my guess. But I thought the same thing about Olamide Zaccheaus last year, and I was wrong. So we will see. Noah Brown, we don't have to talk about Noah Brown. Just like we don't talk about Bruno, we don't need to talk about Noah. Jalen Holmes, peace, Holmes. And that's my guy, Lake Taylor Titan alum. Shout out to the Titans. But I'm good. I'm good on Jalen Holmes. He felt like a guy that was here out of necessity, and we can do better. Debo is the last 30-year-old free agent. Yikes. Let's count them up real quick before we discuss Debo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So of 32 free agents the Commanders have currently, 23 of them were 30 years of age or older. And that doesn't include Tressway, who just signed his deal the other day. That would have made it 24 out of 33. Yikes! Zoink! Scoob! Man, we have to get younger. They know that. They said it at the end of the season. Wow, this is just eyebrow raising to see it, though. It's crazy. Debo Samuel, 30 years old. They had to, make a decision on him yesterday. They didn't. So that forced his money into dead cap. So ultimately, I think they've made their decision already. And Debo's not going to be here next year. I think they've already made the decision to move on from him. I really do believe that. I think they're going to go younger. They said they want to get faster. They want to get younger. Debo was brought here, and I always felt this, and my mindset started to shift a little bit early in the season when he was playing extremely well. But I always felt like Debo was a hired mercenary. We went out and we traded for Debo because we needed another guy opposite of Terry, and we were trying to go win a Super Bowl. He was on the last year of his deal. It was easy to get out after the 1 year. It felt like a mercenary coming in here to try to help push us over the top. It didn't work. He had a solid season, but you go your way, and we'll go ours. That's what it felt like. He started to play well, then the injuries happened, and he was kind of modest. He led to a bunch of turnovers last year, drops and things of that nature. He can go. I'm good on Debo. Chase Edmonds was only here because of injuries, so he can go as we get into the 20s. Tyree Jackson, I think, is a guy that they're still interested in. I wouldn't be shocked to see them bring him back to compete on the roster at the tight end position. He got hurt, and I think they still see promise in him. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him brought back to compete on the 90-man roster heading into camp. Lucas Niang was their attempt at grooming a younger swing tackle / guard that could play multiple positions. He was supposed to be the new Trenton Scott, the new Andrew Wiley, and then he got hurt. I don't know if they want to, continue with his rehab and see, because he'll be ready by the time camp starts. I don't know if they want to continue with that or if they want to just let Lucas Niang, walk and try with another, young guy. We'll see. I don't really feel any way about Lucas Niang one way or the other because we didn't get to see him here. So Chris Paul, I think we're all in agreement that he played well enough to warrant being brought back. But this new scheme that they're going to be deploying, the zone run blocking scheme, does not fit his skill set, to be honest with you. That said, I think you have to bring him back regardless. Let him compete, see what happens. I think that spot is Brandon Coleman's to lose if Coleman comes in with the right mentality, in shape, and is able to stay healthy for all of training camp. That's been the thing that's hurt him each of the last 2 years, is not being able to stay healthy in the summertime. And he allowed Chris Paul to get an opportunity, and Paul, basically kicked that door down. He left ajar and didn't give him his job back. I think you bring back Chris Paul, let him compete, see if he can handle the zone run blocking scheme, even though I think it's a better fit for Brandon Coleman. Jake Moody obviously is brought back. You went out and got him, and he didn't miss a kick other than an extra point. And I was really impressed with his correction of that missed extra point. Really windy conditions in New York, and he fixed that right away. So I want a young kicker. This is one you can grow with. I'm hoping that his struggles early in his career have helped him get to the point now where he's ready to settle in, and we're the team that he settles in with. Usually it's the reverse for us. We get the kicker. We go through all the struggles, the bumps, the bruises, the ups, the downs. We put in all the work, and then we never see the fruits of the labor because that kicker goes on to be successful elsewhere. And we were the ones that took all of the lumps to allow that kicker to get to where he is and has all the confidence. I've watched it happen so many times in my lifetime. David Akers, Graham Gano, hell, even Dustin Hopkins, D-Hop left and became a Pro Bowler with the Cleveland Browns. Sean Sweezum ended up going to Pittsburgh and having a very good career. The list goes on and on and on. Can we finally be the team that benefits from one of these kickers struggling elsewhere and then settling in with us? Hopefully Jake Moody is that guy for us. He's going to be back, and he should be back. Noah Igbenogany, boy, he's still really young. It feels like he's been in the league forever, and he's only 26. I wouldn't mind him being back, but I just feel like we could do better than him. I just feel like we can do better than Noah Igbenogany. But if they brought back Noah Igbenogany, I wouldn't be upset. But I think his time here has run its course. Traylon Burks, obviously this is a no-brainer. He should be back here, and I expect him to be back here. He's one of the guys you take care of and make sure that he's back in the mix. Chris Rodriguez, I'm not the massive Chris Rodriguez fan that some of you are. If they brought him back, I'd be cool with it. If they didn't, no skin off my back. Again, he's one of those guys that I'm cool either way. Drake Jackson, I didn't see enough last year to make me say, oh, he's definitely got to be brought back. But also, you got to keep in mind he was coming back from a big-time injury that stopped him from playing football for over a year and a half. You weren't going to see explosion, all that stuff. That might come back this year. So I'm interested in Drake Jackson. This is a low proposition, type of move, right? Or a low risk proposition, right? High reward type of move. So why not bring Drake Jackson back? I'm all for bringing him back. It's not going to cost you a bunch. He was a former second-round pick. If it doesn't work, he just doesn't have to make the team. But I don't see why you wouldn't bring him back and let him compete this summer with this squad. So those are the 32 current free agents for the Washington Commanders. 23 of them are 30 years of age or older. Let's see how many I'm interested in bringing back, or at least at a bare minimum indifferent about. So the first one was Marcus Mariota. 1. Eddie Goldman makes 2. Dietrich Wise is 3. Andrew Wiley is 4. Again, Wise and Wiley aren't guys that I want back. These are guys that I'm indifferent about. If they brought him back, I'd be cool with it. Sort of on the fence. That's 4. Jacob Martin, want him back. 5. Chris Paul, 6. Jake Moody, 7. Traylon Burks, 8. Chris Rodriguez Jr., 9. Drake Jackson, 10. So of the 32 free agents that the Commanders currently have, 10 of them, I would be cool with them being brought back. Of those 10, Marcus Mariota, Eddie Goldman, Jacob Martin, Chris Paul, Jake Moody, Traylon Burks, and Drake Jackson, 7 of the 10 I want back. The other 3, if they brought them back, cool. If not, whatever, right? Dietrich Wise, Andrew Wiley, and Chris Rodriguez. You bring them back, cool. If you don't, not really tripping. The other 7, I would really like them to be brought back here, right? So what says you? Leave it down in the comment section of this video. We'll see if these new coordinators can unlock some of these guys. We are going to take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor, come back on the other side, and then get to any comments, and then we'll get out of here. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. Big shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. I know football is over, but that doesn't mean the fun stops. NBA hitting their All-Star break, which means after the All-Star break, things get serious. Teams start positioning themselves for the postseason. You got college basketball hitting high gear now. March Madness right around the corner. Baseball is going to start here shortly. So a ton of activity going on. Sleeper has you covered for all of it. They've also started this new feature where you can pick winners with teams. I think it's awesome. I'm going to have more information on that for you next week. Looking forward to talking to you guys about that. But big shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. Let's get to the comment section and then we will get out of here. So we got one comment and then we'll bounce. This is from our guy, JP. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 24 months. Happy 2-year anniversary to my guy, JP. Really, truly do appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise, JP, always good to hear from you, my guy. I'd actually like Von to come back. He had 9 sacks at 37 years old, which is pretty good. I'd love Debo back and maybe Wagner, but everyone else, deuces. So Von was cool, like for what we were trying to do last year. How many of those 9 sacks were actually Von Miller making a play? Like I told you last year, Von Miller was the ultimate cleanup man. He was the ultimate janitor, right? Head custodian of the defensive line group. He would literally get sacks based off of someone else creating a mess, and he'd just clean it up. He had 1 sack against the Giants where we went, whoa, what the F was that? Von, where's that been? He had he had 2 straight brilliant rushes in a row. The second of which culminated in a sack where he used the spin move on the tackle and got to Jackson Dart. And we were wondering, where the hell has that been all season? Because that ain't the shit we saw. Those 9 sacks, I tell you 7 of them were Von Miller cleaning up the mess that someone else created. So I'm good on Von Miller at 37 years old. But if you want him back, I can't knock the hustle. Debo, I know fans that want Debo back. And again, I'm not opposed to it. I don't forget that Debo hurt us last year. And while he made a bunch of plays and he was one of the few guys that was healthy throughout the season, for the most part, he missed a game or 2. But, you know, I just feel like you can do better than Debo Samuel. Okay, you know, point blank. Like, I can't erase from my memory bank the Kansas City, you know, interception. That changed everything. We were moving right down the field. And if we score on that opening possession with the way the Chiefs, and we saw that the Chiefs weren't good last year. We could have beat them. You know, at that point of the season, I think there was still this mystique around Kansas City and that, they would have beat us anyway. Bullshit. And what we saw later in the season, that they were losing to everybody. We could have beat them. We could have beat them. And Debo killed us that night. And we got shut out by Minnesota because Debo dropped the football on 4th down. He tried to give away an interception versus the Raiders in week 3. Like, there were more opportunities for turnovers because of Debo Samuel last year than the ones that he made. He hurt us a lot last year. He made some plays, but I'm good. I'm good on Debo. And Wagner, I already told you, I'm on the fence with Wagner, but I'm probably more so leaning towards, because I know what him being back means. You can't have him here and expect him to just sit on the bench or defer to one of the young guys. Like, he's not trying to do that. He still views himself as a 3-down linebacker that doesn't want to come off the field, wants to play every snap. And that's just, you're stunting the growth of the young guys here. So I'm siding towards not bringing Bobby back just off the strength of that alone. You know, while I know he can still be effective and he can still help, I'm more interested in seeing what these young boys can do. So, Shadow Striker, thank you for being a member for 24 8 months. Who writes, that's an impressive list of old folk. Move them out. Man, we literally had the old folk home in Washington last year, bruh. 23. Again, if you add Tressway in there, 24 free agents that were 30 years of age or older. Are you kidding me? Yikes! And you want to know why we were the oldest team in football by a mile? There's your proof right there. And that's not even adding in the guys that might be on the roster that are 30 years of age or older that are still under contract, like a Terry McLaurin, for instance. There's still other guys that fit that bill that are here in Washington. Laramie Tunzel is 30 years of age or older. So again, you have other guys approaching that 30-year-old landmark like Tyler Biadasz and things of that nature. So again, we're like, they're going to add some youth to this roster as they should, but you do need a good blend. Like Durante Jones said, you do need a good blend of veterans and young guys as well. So looking forward to seeing how they fill out the roster, but you've gotten my list. Of the 32, 10 can stay, right? I'm not opposed to it. Of those 10, 7 I absolutely want back out of the 10 that I said can stay, right? So for me, the number, like if you nailed me down and said, this is what you want, 7 out of 32. 7 out of 32. If you expanded it for me, 10 out of 32, I'm cool with. But there's 7 guys in particular. What's the number for you? List the guys down in the comment section. Can't wait to read your responses. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up, take command. Told you I wasn't going to keep you here long. It's a Friday. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. I look forward to chopping it up with you over the weekend at some point. If not, you'll definitely see me first thing on Monday morning. But in any event, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you on the other side, if not at some point this weekend. You guys be good. Enjoy Valentine's Day. Love up on your significant other. I'll give you my thoughts on Valentine's Day very quickly. I can't stand it. Okay. I hate Valentine's Day because of the capitalistic nature of it. It's a man-made holiday to force people to spend money, not people, men to spend money. However, I love what Valentine's Day promotes, which is love. Who doesn't love love? And I love love. And I love when people have a reason to love up on one another. So enjoy Valentine's Day. I'm going to enjoy it with my wife. We're going to have a weekend to ourselves. Finally, it feels like we haven't had one of those in forever. And so you take advantage of Valentine's Day, whatever way you see fit, and we'll come back on the other side and chop it up. Until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless. Leave me that free agency list now for the Commanders. Peace.